we are live. Welcome to the RedBlue Pod number 28. We have our usual co-host. You can now present yourself.
Cool as always. So how's your day been?
It's been another day, another dollar, as we say. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's getting cold here. It's getting cold. I'm guessing you have
I wouldn't know.
you have hot weather where you live now, right?
Yeah, which to be fair, I kind of like cold weather, but I also don't mind not having cold weather, so it's whatever. But it has been raining a lot, and has fucked with my internet a bit. So, and anytime it rains, it is so fucking loud because where I'm at now, I'm basically like in a forest. Well, actually, it's just there's tons of like forest-ish like trees around the area, like outside of the house areas, and also like on the sidewalks and shit. So anytime it rains, it sounds so loud. Like I always think like my air conditioner is like breaking down, or like there's like a fuse that's about to explode because it's that loud.
So, uh, it's rainy and for me it's snowy. So let's start this off by speaking about Sin City 2, the sequel. What did you think about it?
Well, I will say it's if you want, this came out I think like around 10 years later or something. Um, like if you just wanted to revisit the world and some decent entertainment again, in that area, then it's not bad. It's a pretty decent film overall. I'll say it is decent. And one new character they brought in didn't, was pretty entertaining. I'll say the least. Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's. Yeah, it was a little confusing some parts of it, but I quickly got the hang of it. What they were going for, and the reasoning for certain things. Later on, and with Mickey Rourke's character. So I guess he was not taking his pills during that whole mission made him imagine the last part where he killed the guy in like the church house or whatever and was executed. Yeah, you just stop when the car crashed in that one area, I guess. But yeah, I'll say though this is just decent though, nothing more than that. Which is more than I expected, honestly. With what for me, with like what I heard of the some criticisms with it. But yeah, this is a film that it's like just did not need to happen, and they didn't do a great job, giving. It's like there's definitely more that needed that you could have done in this universe and stuff that they teased from the first. So it's not like a sequel was out there. Especially again they have Frank Miller as the director and all three of them, including that garbage spin-off or prequel, whatever type thing, which we won't be mentioning because it's dog shit. But yeah, this what they did with it though. I mean, it's just like a weaker version of the first in every way, pretty much. Sadly, like visual wise, action wise, for the most part, outside of maybe a couple moments. Character wise, it's like besides maybe one character getting diving more into her, but yeah, though honestly, the best character in it is probably the new character, just because we never met him before, so it was something okay newer. And I thought the second part of his story would be at the very end, but so it wasn't. But yeah, I mean, it's again a decent film that's just didn't need to happen, and is a weaker version of the first in basically every way, but is decent and fun enough at least for a watch thing. But I definitely probably won't be revisiting it ever again, unlike the first, which I thought was a masterpiece. But what did you think about it?
Oh my, oh my, oh my. I was entertained, I will admit it. That one was more entertaining than the first one, but it was clearly a step down in terms of story, in terms of everything. It's kind of
Yeah,
sad.
it was just a weaker version in every way. It's like you had like an S tier or A tier film, and then it like you drag it down to like a C or D tier the whole way through.
Yeah, it's almost like that for me as well. So, man, in that movie, the plot armor is just nasty. It's just nasty. All much plot armor these character have. It's crazy. I lost words. People can't aim. Plot armor. I don't know how many times I mentioned plot armor. One, two, three. So
Yeah,
I
I mean
mentioned three times plot
they did
armor.
up the stakes in this, I guess. They did up the stakes, I suppose, to a certain extent. Like they really made it a lot harder on the main characters in each section. Definitely compared to the first. Like yeah, almost nothing went for them outside of like two parts, the very end and like the middle section. Outside of that, like there was a lot of yeah, a lot more at stakes, I'll say, but and that doesn't necessarily make it better. And again, the one thing I really like about the first is with its each section and chapter and just like the pattern of it, it follows like a very steady, thing that with a lot of expression. And this, I didn't get as much of that from that. It was kind of just all over the place and kind of a clusterfuck.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. You just found better words. Um, Man, people can't aim. I mentioned this three times. And
Oh
there's.
yeah, especially one scene near the very end. Oh fuck, there were like these two guys with machine guns shooting at that guy, and they all just or her or whatever, and they all just miss, and then just oh my god.
I was rolling my eyes. You got no idea, man. You just got no idea how much I rolling.
Yeah, the last scene was just like a huge face palm. Like even as someone who doesn't care as much with that, and again with what they set up with the characters and their powers, like the level of like aiming poorly with the villains in like the last section of that film, though, with the guys with the like hand machine guns or whatever, while facing Mickey Rourke's character and stuff. Like it was holy fuck, Jesus, it was like as bad. It's like the fucking stormtroopers. Holy fuck.
Even the stormtrooper, they aim better than this shit.
At least they shot Leia fucking once, yeah.
Um, the subplot about the cop falling in love, man, that feels like poorly written. Feel like it was just a plot device there to like help the girl. I really didn't like that plot thread there. I felt like that sub story was probably the worst thing about that movie because I could not believe it. I was like, that's unbelievable.
Well, I think what they were showing, I think what they were showing is her powers, like hypnotizing people. And
Yeah.
I think that was the point of it. That section. I didn't mind that section. It was just like, yeah, it was a little overdone by certain. It was just like, can we move on? We get what this is leading to. Come on.
And this is interesting because in the first movie we had several plots, we had several movies in one movie, and this is what made the first movie good. Now this time around they really tried to do the same thing, but it wasn't done as good, and they, as you said, it's a clusterfuck. So all the movie they piece together, they don't really make sense because you get part of one movie and then it's cut by part of another movie and you're like, what the fuck? Like you start off with the kid playing cards and winning cards, and then you cut off to another storyline and then you go back to him. I'm like, why they are doing this? I will admit
Yeah.
the best one was the last one with Nancy because that linked to the first movie, but here again it wasn't that amazing. It was just fine. It's nowhere near as good as the first movie. In the first movie, like
Hmm.
that's hands
Yeah.
down my favorite story. And yeah, it's that movie feels like many step down, many steps down.
Yeah. like when it comes to like this, how they sort out the stories and having them mixed together, like they were trying something different. It could have worked. I just don't think they did it the right way is all. But it's not even that with being a clusterfuck. Again, it's just like the style of it and like the visual choices and like the messages of it and with the character actions. It's like it had a steady flow in the first, and it did it so well. And in this one, it's just it's like you try throwing a fucking football to a dyslexic child, and he drops it. That's like what this film did.
I agree.
Like, why even try?
I agree with that. So, now I will admit, as I said, I thought that movie was more entertaining. I had no pacing issue anywhere. I think it was fast paced, and it was perfect for what they wanted to do. It wasn't as deep as the first one, so it didn't need to be as long as the first one. Um, Now, the city felt less like a character. I said it in the first movie. Uh, the first movie felt like it was the city, the main character, but here it didn't feel that way because these storylines, they are basically all disconnected. You know, like the only one that connects really is like the guy playing cards and like Nancy because of the corrupt mayor or something, the corrupt politician or senator. I can't remember what it was, but the corrupt politic guy. That was like the only thread that like connected stuff together, and there was also the guy from the first movie before he died, I guess, because that was like 4 years later, as they said. So I'm guessing it's before he was arrested for the murder of the other, the cat guy, or I don't know. I was surprised to see a character brought
Yeah.
back like that. It was still entertaining,
Yeah.
but
Oh well, hold on. Sorry. What was it? Was it before that incident?
yeah, it was
Hmm.
before that incident because he died on the chair
Okay.
at the end of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
film
Well,
in the
here's the
movie.
thing that the timeline really fucking me up. 'Cause, okay, if it was years before, then never mind. But the
So
timeline's really fucking me up because I believe it's in the future because of her eventually killing, and
I
unless
I
the
think it's
different sections are like at a different point.
I think it's in between like the first storyline with the cop that kills himself at the end is like the beginning of everything, and then 4 years later, which is this movie now, happens. The entire movie happens, and then the storyline with the guy that go after the psycho that eat people happens. So it's like I feel like the third story.
That might be the case. Um, I that might be the case. What I thought though was the way he crashed his car on the road. You saw at the beginning and everything. He woke up like in the same place where he kind of crashed the car on the road after killing the cat guy, and then going to kill the guy in the tower, and then getting in the electric chair, and he was off his pills the whole time. So I thought like that what was explained was they didn't remember anything after that because he didn't take his pills and everything. But yeah, he didn't actually do the last part, and so he stayed alive and then was doing everything else. And then because Josh Brolin's character playing an older version of the one character shows that it's in the years later. Again, unless the stories are sectioned in different time periods, but that's what I got out of it. I thought. That or maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm like thinking actually, holy fuck. Okay. I think I understand the issue here. Okay. Well, maybe I do. I don't know. I think they might have just got Josh Brolin to play that character again because he didn't return and just got him for not to be an even older version of him because the other characters' ages stayed the same. So I think that okay, I think that's it was just some continuity fucking errors there. I think maybe I don't know. This timeline is so confusing. So I don't know. It could be either one, but if it said like 4 years prior or something at the start, which I missed, I guess, and I guess that's the case. I don't know.
They
That's what I thought was going on, and
in
that
the second movie they say 4 years later. So like the second movie clearly
oh
happens after the first one, but I think the first one, the several storyline all have different time zone. So I'm guessing like
yeah
the first is 4 years earlier, and then you got I don't know how many years later the storyline with the guy that get executed in jail after that.
yeah. But to be fair, the governor character was alive in all of them, so that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's confusing the timeline. I don't know. It could be either of our things. Either way, it doesn't really matter too much. Both of them make sense, I guess. Whatever, whichever it is.
Anyway, I think overall that movie was just popcorn flick, just entertaining, and that's it. I did
Yeah,
like a lot the fact that the kid dying after winning a second time was interesting. Uh, it
yeah,
was
yeah. Because you thought there was gonna be more, but no, he kind of just accepted his fate. He just wanted to. He like intentionally made him shoot him.
yeah,
Like that's all he wanted.
yeah. So that was interesting, I guess. There's a lot of action. I see a lot of action sequence here and there. So the action was good, even if plot armor is nasty. I still think the action was good. Um, I'm glad with that Nancy storyline. That was hands down my favorite this movie. Um,
Same.
I think out of 10, I would give this one a 7 because I was entertained. It's not the worst thing I've seen. And despite my issues, I still think it was a fine movie. It's not a great movie, it's not a good movie. I think it's very average. That's why I gave a 7. Because for me, 6
Yeah,
is mediocre. So 7 is like average
yeah.
for me.
Yeah, we see for me, yeah. So for me, like a 5 out of 10 is average, and like a 4 out of 10 is mediocre. So for me, I'd give it the same thing, but just in my rating things. So I'd give it a 4.5 or a 5 out of 10 around that. Again, decent, entertaining film, but yeah, a lot of issues didn't need to be made, honestly. So yeah, I'm probably not gonna. It was fine, one watch thing. It was entertaining, but yeah, I'm revisiting the world was cool, but yeah, I'm probably not gonna see this ever again, though. Unlike the first, I don't know. Do you think you would ever rewatch it like the first, or no?
Maybe just the ending with the Nancy storyline, but I I think the overall movie is not good enough. Only the Nancy plot matters for me because that was the best part of
Yeah,
it. But as a whole movie, I don't see myself rewatching this one. And this is funny because I think the first movie was better, but here's the thing: in the first movie, the same kind of thing happened. I think I would only rewatch the first story in that movie, and maybe the third one with the guy going after the serial killer. These were like really good, so maybe I would actually rewatch these two, but not the entire movie here again because I think it was a very long movie. It was a good movie, but it was a very long movie, and I didn't like everything about it.
yeah, and
Um,
also like the choices of like which the color grading choices I thought was also a step down. Like again, in the first one, it used it very well and what to highlight, and in this one, it's like there wasn't as much of a focus on. I mean, they're like what they had it in there, but I wouldn't say it was as much of like a focus with certain things. So like to say this is crucial, you should pay attention to it with like the character and what they're like. It's like I didn't get this from this either. Again, it's kind of just a generic sequel.
yeah, I agree. Very generic sequel. So, any closing thoughts before we move on to the Umbrella Academy?
No, that's about it. But I will say though, it's funny how I just pick these films at random. Like what when I'm in the mood or whatnot. But yeah, I for some reason have a habit of picking up like one film and then the week after or in the same week we'll be covering a film with like similar actors in it from the other one, and that's the case here with next week. So yeah, that's odd, but how that always keeps happening. But anyway, let's move on, I guess, to Umbrella Academy. Yeah,
What did you think of the first season?
I really enjoyed it. Honestly, this is like it's like a fucking CW. It's like you take a shitty not one of the good ones, a shitty CW show, and it still has some of the same issues with like line delivery and there's some fight scenes at points, but overall it's like a very good version of it, of like something like fucking Titans. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't really a weak character in it. I enjoyed them all. Yeah, again, some of the line delivery was off of characters and stuff, but with like a couple of them. But outside of that, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, God, there was other things maybe they'll come back to me. I don't know. I think I might have forgotten. But yeah, I mean, what did you? There were a couple things I wanted to ask you though. Just two things quickly before get on more of like what you thought of it. Just number one though. Well, out of the cast, which one was your favorite character so far?
Oh man, I'm torn apart. Two characters, either Vanya, because I do think Vanya was amazing, and her growth in the season, because she was the focus. In fact, she was a heavy focus. She is uh like Seven, the one that at first glance appears to be powerless, but at the end she is the most powerful one. And
Mm-hmm.
the second one was Diego. Diego was amazing. I think he carried the show on his shoulders, and that led to a supporting character being very interesting, like his ex girlfriend or the detective girl. Like the very by the book person was very interesting, and this is funny because he kept telling her, don't stay by the book, and the one time she doesn't go by the book, she dies. So her growth led to her dying. That was like great, and how Diego reacted to this was priceless. Now, even if they are my favorite, because I was very entertained by Vanya and Diego, I do think number five, had a lot of good stuff going on. But these
Yeah,
are like,
he's probably like my favorite, honestly. That or like and my version of like what you said about what you're saying about five, not your favorite, but really entertaining. Though was probably Claws, but yeah, but number five might be my favorite, honestly. But anyway, continue.
yeah, I do think number five was amazing, but I just connect more with Diego because Diego is just Diego, and I could relate much more to him than five. Even if five is a very entertaining
Yeah.
and funny character, he is a good character, number five. But I still feel like I would not have liked the show as much if they would have like taking out Diego just to keep five or to give more stuff to five. Even if it was very important, it was very important because it was like the family member outside of Vanya that was like basically the most important one because he was like the bridge with the villain and the good guys. So number five is just really good, but I feel like they they could have done a variant of the show with only Diego, because Diego is. I just feel like Diego is that amazing, but that's just me feeling that way. Um,
Yeah.
I still think the entire cast is really good. I think the
Yeah,
weakest
I will say though with Diego.
in the first couple episodes, I was a little afraid that he would be like one of the weakest out of the cast, just for the fact that we would get to know less about him, and he would be more for like action scenes. But luckily, that wasn't the case.
I think for me the weakest character would be either the villains. Oh, actually, the villains are really weak for me. They are like the worst parts of the show. This season could have been much better with better villains. Like the the uh,
Same, I agree.
the team of Hitman was entertaining, but the big bad above them is not that great. And I think they are the weakest part of it. And if we speak about the family, I think Luther and the telepath girl are the weakest parts. Because the telepath girl, like, she doesn't get that much. And on top of that, they basically take her power away by the end of the season. And I hate when they do that to characters. Why? You don't need to do this shit to give growth to your character. So, Telepath Girl, like, as much as she is very likable, she is one of the weakest parts of of the show, and I didn't really care about her relationship with Luther because Luther is not that amazing as a character. He is just some kind of trope of the perfect hero that always look at the best of everyone, but in the end, because his girlfriend get hurt or his love interest get hurt, he lose that part of him, and he becomes one of the reason why Vanya is turning evil. And I think at the end Luther was fine, but it was still one of the weakest part of it because until the end of the season, Luther wasn't that great for me. Like he started getting good at the end, but even there, he is nowhere near as entertaining for me as Diego
Yeah,
or Five or Vanya. Vanya
yeah.
was
Again, I was a little bit disappointed with what they did. With I guess the idea was more of like a passenger type characters there, but again, they could have done something more interesting because again, he was like in the first episode, he was more of like the person like standing alone on situations and stuff like, and they could have like done something more interesting with like his behavior, but they kind of didn't explore that the same way they did with other characters, and I was I was kind of just they yeah well, hopefully in season two there's honestly, and like fucking for some reason, like he's like the definition of like if you had like a TV show characters who's like the equivalent of the main character. Again, I don't know if you played the games, but the main character in the fucking campaign of Gears of War 4, then that's basically Looper.
I played
I
the
don't know if you've
first
at
three
all played
gears.
those.
I didn't play the fourth
Oh
one.
yeah,
I
and then
only played the first
oh
three.
yeah, and then in Okay, I'll tell you that fourth and fifth, I don't know when they're gonna do six, but yeah, they're overall solid to good games, but definitely nowhere near as much as the third and they ruined the multiplayer, but the campaigns are still good, but not as good as they could be in there. And they do some interesting things, but also drop the ball some things, and are also too short. Overall, still solid, worth playing, but yeah, and also yeah, they ruined multiplayer, but and esports scene. But anyway, let's but yeah, the main character you play in the fourth, which changes in the fifth though, is you play as Marcus Phoenix's son, and yeah, honestly he was a pretty generic out of the whole cast in the fourth, and honestly that's the definition I would give to the character of Luthor in this season.
So yeah, I think they
They could
had
have
a
done more.
I think they had a lot of really good ideas. Now, Harold Jenkins, the other side villain, it was better than the organization, but it wasn't that amazing. It was just a bland villain that envy the good guys and that wants to kill the good guys because he envies them. It was one-sided, one-dimensional, and that wasn't great, but it was still better than the organization. I just feel like the organization are villain to be villain, and their goal doesn't make sense for me because they don't really explain why it's so important for them to cause the end of the world. They just tell you it must happen, so it will happen, but they don't really tell you, oh yeah, if this doesn't happen, something worse happens, Or if that doesn't happen, then something else happens, like they just want this to happen because it need to happen. And for me it's not enough. Like when you do world ending thread like that, you need to do something unique, something good, something that wasn't done like thousands of times. And I feel like this generic world ending threat was done thousands of times. And the kind of trope that you try to end that but you cause it, it's also overdone and it was done better. But despite the flags, as I said, I was very entertained. Now, uh, character wise, I think everyone got fair amount of growth. And Klaus, I barely spoke about him because I think among the main cast, he was in the he was like in the middle for me. Like it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst. He had things to do. He was entertaining, and he was a good example of diversity. Now, I say that because I am currently rewatching Supergirl for a video matter, and um, Supergirl gives every example of how to not do diversity well. The diversity in Supergirl is poorly done, poorly written. But when I look back to Umbrella Academy, it's actually well done because the the guy relationship is actually important to the plot and what he becomes and his growth. It actually changed the entire story. If you take that love interest away, it doesn't work anymore. And they that love interest is just there to give him a purpose to change and to be a better person. And I will go further with this. It's not really the gender that matter in that storyline, and they never make it a big deal. It's just something in the story. And this is when you do diversity well, because you don't overdo it to tell people, look, I virtue signal, it's just well done. Like you could swap genders around and tell the same kind of story the same way, and it would work as good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean for sure. And yeah, I will say, which one did you think was worse, the Supergirl show or the film?
The old movie. Oh my, the old movie. Oh, the old movie. Don't
Yeah,
get.
which one is worse between them?
Definitely the movie. Look, I think Supergirl throughout the sixth season we had a really one great season, and this is the one I'm watching here. But even there, one of the weakest part of it is the relationship of characters. That bothers me so much. But like, the first two seasons are
Yeah.
godly awful. They are. Oh my, they are something else.
Yeah,
Titans.
in the film, you
It's
can literally see the fucking wires while she's flying.
But yeah, I think the
Uh,
movie's worse. The movie
but
is
yeah,
worse.
anyway, I will. What did you think? Hold on one sec, my mic's cutting out.
His mic is cutting off.
Yeah, hopefully.
I didn't hear you. I've seen your green icon.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying my mic was. I was saying my mic was cutting out. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, yeah, it's lagging a bit, so sorry if it keeps cutting in and out at certain points. I'll try to fix it. But anyway, another thing was, yeah, what did you think of the Ben character?
The Ben character. I actually have a blank. Ben. Which
The guy
character?
who's, dead, the ghost type character that, talks to Claus.
Oh, the ghost one. Oh, he was cool. He was entertaining, but it was.
Yeah,
I feel like.
yeah, the person I actually, I've seen actually, he's a new up and coming actor. Apparently, he's only been in two things, and I did see the film he was in that came out this year. So yeah, now this is the other thing, I guess. But yeah, I really enjoyed him. He was entertaining.
I think Ben for me is an extension of Klaus because most of his scenes are with Klaus for good reason because of Klaus' powers. And I will also say
Yeah.
this in favor of Klaus as a character. His powers are the most interesting one among all of the cast, and this is
Oh
really
yeah.
interesting. And these powers also traded his addiction. As he said, it's because of his foster father sending him in the tomb to speak with the dead that he started uh, using alcohol and drugs and stuff. So I think Klaus is just on a really good spot. He wasn't my favorite character as I said, but he is much better than characters like the Telepath Girl or Luther. And I really hope in season two Luther and Telepath Girl get more stuff for them because I really want the entire cast to be well used, and I feel like they're
Yeah.
really
Again, they're treating them more like passenger characters, but it's like I hope that they maybe shift that with like I mean they did with like I would say half like one third of the scenes already with him and Claus, but I would like more if they did that in season two with number five and stuff, like, shift it more there so so yeah, they like dive into a bit more because it is lacking there.
yeah. And I think the approach they had with Seven, aka Vanya, was very interesting because at first she was just a normal girl, and
Yeah,
she slowly changed. And at first they're like, she is into a family of heroes, so she will end up being a good person and a hero, a asset for the team. But because of the
oh yeah,
upbringing, in fact, that's upbringing we have with villains, because people rejects her, and the only person that really want to move on with her want to use her as a weapon. So in fact they were setting up a villain in one of the most brilliant way in my book. So that's why I like so
oh
much
yeah.
Vanya. It's because in
Yeah, and do you think, again, do you think the father, like, intentionally, like, did he think he knew about the powers and just intentionally did that because he knew the danger?
Yeah, well, it's been shown in the flashback that he knew about Vanya powers, and he tried to
Okay,
suppress
because I
them.
must have missed that because I must have missed that while I was fast forwarding, but I figured there was something like that in there, so I was just like asking. Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
he did figure
But
it
yeah,
out. That's why he lied to her, and the telepath
yeah,
girl basically tried to erase that part of the memory. That's why Vanya didn't really know about it until the end. And when she finds out, that breaks her, and she killed the telepath girl by accident. And yeah, the father knew it, and the biggest reason of the murder mystery, that was a very interesting part in the first half of the season. Uh, well, it's been solved. He killed himself to bring the family together again because he knew that that was the only way to bring the family again. But now, what I really want to see and learn is how he knew about that future, like how he knew that his kids were like the only wall to maybe save the human race. I really want that to be shown in season two. Now, we did mention a lot of general thing, but I need to
yeah,
get this one out of my chest because I feel like that season may be overrated by a lot of people that will overlook the writing. Now, I think the characters, the writing is on point. But there's a big but. The story and the pieces and the episode, they are not as well written as the characters. I think the story is where
yeah,
the show falls off for me. It has a lot of plot convenience all over the place.
yeah. And
It
I'm not a fan of the aging characters at all, but yeah,
like um I take a look to my notes, and episode one, my only issue was the pacing. I think the first episode was very long, and I feel like they could have trimmed down a little bit of it. The second
hmm
episode was how convenient the witness was, and
Yeah.
he was brought back later on, and he was like tortured and stuff, and I was like, man, that's huge
Mhm.
plot convenience.
Yeah. Also, in the first episode, I will say I thought that like graveyard scene fucking sucked. Because again, I talked about the line delivery. I thought the line delivery there was fucking horrible, and the some of the writing there, and then that action scene I was just bad. So yeah, I will say that with episode one as well. That was the worst, probably the worst part of the whole season one, honestly. Yeah.
And
Anyway, continue.
what else? Well, at some point, yeah, um, there was that episode where they almost made it filler because they undid a lot of things. But I said almost filler because the episode after that we get another perspective, and then we realize that only pieces of that storyline in the previous episode were changed. So, I think it was episode 5 or 6, and then the episode after that one made the previous one worth it. So yeah, that's very hard to explain for me, but that's the episode where do you remember when number 5 goes at the burrow and he blows up the burrow, and because of that things are changing.
Yeah, I remember that.
So at first glance, it feels like filler, but then they kind of fix it in the following episode. I can't remember when it was
Yeah.
exactly. Now,
Yeah,
plot.
that reminds me of some things they fixed. Like, there were some design choices with the characters that looked fake looking, but then they revealed some stuff later on. Like, oh, that's why that's the case. Okay.
Yeah. Now another issue: the plot convenience. Seven finding the red book that her boyfriend stole, and that being her wake-up call, despite the telepath trying her best to help her out as a good sister, and it's like, okay, whatever, she will believe a book, but she won't believe her sister that has the best intent, and I was really, really bothered by it. And this is funny because I'm going through my notes.
Because to be fair, she knows the her powers, so she might, seem ingenuine to her, with what her powers are.
Yeah, I go through my notes and I see weird dialogue. So in episode 4, there was a scene where there were many instances of really bad dialogue. I can't remember exactly what, but this was bad enough for me to take out an entire point for that episode. So I think episode 4 was kind of bad because of that. Um, I'm looking to my notes now. The weakest episode for me was the season finale. Oh my. This one was a 7.5 out of 10 for me. And there was a bunch of issues I had. Never properly explained why the villain want the world to end. I already mentioned that briefly. Luther speaking with the telepath. I can't. I can't remember actually. People can't aim again. Plot armor on the girl. What if Vanya just died? Maybe they would never have broke the moon and the world. It's just crazy that they placed Vanya's safety over the world's safety, despite them planting seeds of maybe killing Vanya. Now I understand because it's a superhero TV show and it's not the only superhero
Yeah.
TV show to do so.
Well, to be, they might think though, like they're in depth. After all the years, they kind of like treated her honestly, like barely existent. They might think, they have to. I don't know.
And I will say this: the flashback use were great, and I think the flashbacks were well used and well placed. I mentioned that because there's a lot of flashback in that first season, and I remember Titan having really bad placement for flashbacks, but here in the Umbrella Academy they actually used in a very clever way the flashbacks. What did you think of the flashbacks overall throughout the season?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the flashbacks throughout the season. Definitely some of my favorite parts of it. Yeah, also I will say the one of the flashbacks with Five going back into the past. I will say I glad they added that detail earlier because that could have been an error. Um, where he like recognizes dead in the future because like wait, how would he know it's them? But then oh yeah, right, the tattoos they did earlier in an episode. Okay, so it's good they added that. But yeah, the flashbacks were some of my favorite parts of the season. Yeah, which one was your favorite? I'm interested.
I think it was the first one when they were kids and they fought people at the bank. I think that was my favorite one because it really felt like a superhero TV show. That was the part in the entire season that felt the most like a superhero TV show. And for me, that's a strength there. And I was very entertained by it. So that was hands down um, my favorite. So there's still a bunch of flashbacks I liked, but that's just the one that marks me the most. Now, by the end of the season, we also get good stuff with Vanya. I liked a lot the flashbacks with the nannies, and then the introduction of Mother, because Mother could not get killed, and Mother was able to actually make Vanya eat her breakfast. So I think this is like coming in second place for me. That one, that very long flashbacks. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah.
have seen it or if that's one of the flashbacks you missed.
No, no, I saw that. Yeah. Also, there was also something else I was gonna mention with that character. I forgot to. Thanks for bringing it up. But yeah, do you think the actress who played her did a convincing job?
Vanya or Mother?
The mother.
Oh, the Mother was great, bro. I didn't mention her in
Yeah,
character because
you don't think there were any like slip ups in her performance?
no,
Playing that role, you thought it was like
she
convincing. Okay.
I think she was well directed and she was meant to be that robot and she acted and she felt
Hmm.
like a robot and she was good. Like even if I didn't mention her, I think she was very important, but she is a supporting character, so she's not as important as the main family. And what she brought to the show was good. The actress was well casted, and I liked the character as well. What did you think of her? What did you think of Mother?
Oh, sorry. What's sorry? There were some fucking dogs barking. Sorry. Did you ask me what I thought?
Yeah, what did you thought of Mother?
Yeah, yeah, no, she was great, as he said. I was just curious because yeah, that was one thing. Some people online said they didn't think she did a convincing job, but I mean, I thought so. And I mean, it's hard to pull that character off. I will say though, again, the one film that or the one actor who plays Ben is also in the only other project he's done at the moment, I believe. He plays a robot in that one, so coincidence, and he does an amazing job. And this one wasn't as amazing of a job or convincing as a job, but still. But yeah, just pointing that out. But oh, I will say, you mentioned before about Sevens, but yeah, for character and what they've done with her and stuff, and throughout the season and at the very end, and then also talked about doing a better job with the diversity in this, and then in fucking like Supergirl and shit. Yeah, I will say while they were doing season three, that's when she came out as well. Now he came out as transgender, and yeah, I will say majority of the time
Seven?
I'm not a fan of like unless they're just actually not comfortable with playing like a certain character anymore after like coming out as something. I'm not really a fan of them just like changing characters for the hell of it. Like I remember there's an interview with this one girl who came out as gay after playing a character like 10 years ago, and then she was gonna like play her again, and the producers asked "Hey, do you want us to make the character gay now?" And she's just like, "Why?" It's like they're actors; they don't play themselves. It's like what is? I don't understand why Hollywood keeps doing that. They're actors; they don't play themselves. They can play straight characters. They can play fucking gay characters while being straight in real life. It doesn't. Whatever. All right, I'm not fucking. Well, obviously, you don't play fucking blackface, but still. I mean, unless you're Robert Downey Jr., I guess, in Tropic Thunder. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
I
but yeah,
think this is
but
part
I will say though, yeah,
of being self-centered. They are self-centered.
yeah,
They are
yeah,
narcissists.
but I will say though, in this though, I heard fans of the Umbrella Academy, yeah, because I think it was season three. Again, it might have been season two. I don't know, but yeah, I believe I heard they transitioned the character as well in this. You know, just like in real life, and again, majority of the time I'm not a fan of it, but I actually heard that fans of it really loved it and said that that's how you do it properly and that it actually added something unique and cool to the character, along with like what they've been dealing with as well throughout the season one and season two and whatnot. So I'm curious to see how they execute that.
Me too. You do pique my curiosity here because, as I already said it, I've never seen the show before. I've heard good stuff and bad stuff about it, but usually the bad stuff is coming from the wrong people. You know what I'm talking about, the anti-SGW. Like, these people will
Are
hate
they
it.
not a fan of the show?
Yeah, they ate the crap out of it. But I still heard good stuff, and I don't care about what the NTSGW may think because, in fact, they are propaganda tool as much as the people that are leftist and
Yeah,
they disregard
yeah,
any other
Jesus, yes.
opinion.
Yeah, I believe, yeah. So I looked it up. Yes, I won't say the name, but I'll let that be in season two or season three when watch it unfold. But yeah, the character number seven does change her first name, so yeah, to a male name. So
Okay,
you'll witness that. I won't say which name it is, but yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
interesting.
mean, I will say though, with the anti actually, though, I mean, there are flaws with this show, yeah, but yeah, I will say it's not like there's way worse shows out there. This does a very good job. I would say
Yeah,
this
Supergirl is the
is like a
perfect
good
example.
version of like what some. Yeah, no, this is like a good version of like what something like Titans tries to accomplish.
And I
So
laugh
yeah,
here, but remember, Legion is also about diversity, and I liked it a lot. So you just need good balance. You just need good writers, good writing, and you can make the pill swallow easier by people. But here again, the NTSGW, they will always be against that. Like, even if it's done properly, they will still bash it. You know, they bash freaking Superman and Lois because the guy is too beta, but I never seen Tyler Hoechlin as being a beta, but whatever they say, whatever they think. Oh my.
I guess.
So overall, I, I do think I was very entertained. I think I would give this first season a 9 out of 10. What would be the grade you would give to that first season?
I'd give it around a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10, which is excellent for my score.
Yeah, so I mentioned like in recent days many 9 out of 10 like Gotham fourth season. I think between Gotham fourth season and Umbrella Academy first season, um, I think Umbrella Academy is a bit better than Gotham fourth season. Um, Now in other 9 out of 10 I gave, uh, we didn't cover that on the podcast, but I covered it on my channel. Agents of Shield first season. I think Umbrella Academy get the win again against Agents of Shield first season. So I'm really looking forward to see season 2 of Umbrella Academy, and this is what we will be covering next week for TV shows. I'm really curious to see. I really hope season 2 will be as good or better than the first season. I do think it was a really good start with only like two weaker episodes being episode 10 and episode 4. And even if episode 4 is one of the weakest, Man, the detective girl that died, man, that left an impact. That was a very sad moment, and it was well used after that for storytelling and story purposes. And I really hope they can solve that end of the world story fast and move on into something else, because I don't really like world ending threat. Like sometimes it's fine if you do one, or if you do two, it could be fine. Like Legion, at some extent, that was a world ending threat, but the story wasn't really around that, but around the characters and their choice and what they do and how they react to stuff. So that was just a tool for the character to move around. So it wasn't as bad. But if every season need to deal with that world ending threat, it's not that great. So I really hope in season two they lower the scale, like they end that world-ending threat and they move on into another plot and they make other stories.
I completely agree.
This is really what I'm aiming for, because sometimes world-ending threat they could be fine, but in the first season that was the weakest part of the season. The character were the strongest part of the season. So, any closing thoughts on season one?
No, it's about.
So I will mark down in the timestamps. 56, we move on to The Menu, a movie I know you liked a lot. So, let's cover that. Uh, what did you think of The Menu?
Yeah, I thought it was a great film. Now, I didn't think this is a lot of people's like. I'll be honest, this was a film I didn't expect to like as much because, and I'll be honest, the poster, didn't seem that interesting. For some, they made a lot better posters, and for some reason they picked like the most generic one. But anyway, yeah, I saw the buzz at like film festivals and stuff, and it wasn't as high as others, and I just heard bits and pieces of it. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem that interesting. And I'm like, it seems like it will be a good film that'll be like, yeah, that was a good film, but not be, that get that much enjoyment out of or be that invested into. Kind of just be like a one and done watch for me with how many films I watch. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this a lot more than I expected to, and yeah, the performances were good, and yeah, Ralph Fiennes did a great job as the chef, and there was one issue. It's not an issue. I will say just the one weakness, if I would have to say out of anything, is that some of the messages they try to get across outside of like the all the everything in the comedy and dramatic stuff, some of the more profound messages they try to get out of it with like critics and stuff doesn't work as well, come across as well when you think about it. But outside of that though, it did a great job in my opinion, and thank God they made this a satire as well, like part comedy slash satire, part drama, and all that, because a lot of this would not have worked if they took it too seriously. It would have failed. So thank God they didn't do that. They found the perfect balance there. But yeah, not an amazing film for me as it is for others. Not that it like does anything wrong. I just don't think it's on that level. I just think it's on like a great level from start to finish, kind of like what I thought of Django Unchained, honestly, which a lot of people love even more. But yeah, what did you think though?
What did I think? Okay. As usual, we are honest here. And um, after watching the movie, I was like, did I miss the point of the movie? Did I took it too seriously? And I've looked around and I realized, as you said, it's a satire and a comedy. Um, and this changed a bit my perspective, but yeah, I think it was a fine movie. I was entertained by it. I do think in the early parts of the movie, pacing was kind of bad, And outside of that, like, it was a fine movie. Um, Now, with my issues, pacing, I already mentioned that. Second one, too many characters. I cannot connect with that many characters. The cast was too big, and I think the chef and the escort were the only two somewhat good character. Like, even the previous main character, the one that commits suicide by the end, he was really, like, he wasn't that great. It was a prick, and that was the point of his character, but he didn't feel like a character. And
Well, he's kind of like the showing you kind of like a hardcore critic slash fan, sort of, like what kind of like a pretentious film critic. Honestly, that's like the take on it.
yeah, but the fact that this is your main character at some extent, well, the entire cast is your main character, but he's the first character you are introduced to. Well, that's fine, I guess.
I think the
This,
main character is basically just the chef and the girl. I
yeah.
think the rest of the cast was more just like give you like a taste of like every type of like person that would be dining in this situation and their issues. Like I don't think they're as meant to be more of like characters you connect with. I think it's mainly just like the main character as a bit of a passenger and everything, and to show you like more of just like a someone who isn't in that environment experiencing it and everything, and then the chef character, what he's been through and shit, going down this fucking path, and then the rest of it is just like a again just like a comedy satire and everything else.
So at some point they kill someone kill himself, and people think it's stage. I was rolling my
Well,
eyes.
some of them do, some of them don't. It's mainly, it's like 50-50. Like, oh, no, no, no. It can, I'm sure it's like a prop gun. I don't know. Like chaos everywhere.
I rolled my eyes. I was like, why? Why the fuck that happened? Um, After that, nobody on the chef's staff turned on him. Like, nobody. It's very convenient that this happens. What if one of them
Well, I
decided,
mean, they did explain it. They did explain it. I
yeah,
mean, they've been there for years. They're basically like brainwashed at this point,
uh,
And same thing with that guy who also just like resents his work now, is like realized. It's like he put his whole life into it, so it's like he has nothing left to live for in his eyes, so he'll shoot himself, and then the rest, yeah, are basically brainwashed. And that is accurate to certain like situations, like the people who work for chefs like that. Like Jesus, it's like an ant ant farm or whatever you call it.
so later on, the girl, thinking it's a good idea to enter a room locked from the outside in Chef House. At that point, I was like, she will lock herself there. But apparently, that wasn't the purpose of her going there. Uh, Margot coming back instead of trying to escape. Here again, I was like, man, why is she coming back? She knows there's something sketchy. She has seen her client killing himself for the chef. Nobody
Yeah,
talked.
well, there is no boat. That's why there's no boat. And again, she just saw everybody else try to escape and they couldn't. And there's no way out. She knows. Like the only way there was an out, way out later was because of the one boat she later called with the one guy acting, and then he left it there. But yeah, and that was her best bet. So she called him and returned to the place, and to try to like play up like she's still on his side so she doesn't get caught. And again, again, if you're not into this type of thing, I don't blame you. But again, it is like trying to be a satire or comedy as well, so you do have to like how do I say lift like your but when it comes to like realism, like you
Suspend
have to
disbelief.
because it is like Yeah, suspension of disbelief. That's what I was
I
looking for. With
struggle with these
again
movies.
with yeah,
You know
because again
me.
it is like a comedy, so it's a comedy. So yeah.
Um, now, uh, the Coast Guard comes, and nobody freaking speak the truth until the guy marked down on a paper help us. But then the Coast Guard freaking work with the villains. I'm like, that's freaking convenient. I was bashing my head on my bed. No, at that point, I think I was like, that movie wasn't made for me. I
Well,
don't
again,
like.
everybody a part of the island, everybody who like works in any area of that, like around the island, is all in on it. So yeah, and also he might not even be an actual Coast Guard for all we know. He could have actually just been like a complete actor part of it, who just has that boat.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's it for my issues. I will admit the tone of the movie, sometimes it was funny, and sometimes it was a bit dark on the truth they were spitting. Um, like, people they don't value how rich they are, and they don't realize they're lucky and stuff. Um, there was a lot of funny scenes where like Margot in the bathroom smoking, and the chef creepy bathroom scene was very funny. I like that scene a lot. I think that was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Um, I think the fight in the house with both girls was well done because it was two girls and it was well choreographed, and that was a good fight. Um, the bad client, like the character that was the first one we have met in the movie, taking pictures of the food despite them not wanting him to do so was funny. I felt like that movie was a perfect snub meeting. Like, these people are just snobs, you know. Like, I don't know if it's the right word. I know in French it's a
Oh,
word.
yeah, and it's accurate. Honestly, it's like you see the two old characters there. It's like they died 11 times and they don't even like remember a meal. Like fucking with how much money and how rare it is to get in a table. But that's accurate to a lot of rich people.
The whispers to the bad client when you don't really know what is going on, but then you realize later on he hangs himself. He hangs himself. The chef backstory was interesting. Like, the first character, he was entertaining because he was a freaking perfect jerk. Um, Things getting crazy when people start running away and getting captured. That was funny. Um, the music sometimes worked for me, other times it didn't. The chef was clearly the best part of the movie, as you said. Um, the assistant cook killing himself was entertaining. Um, yeah, the ending where everyone dies, you kind of see it coming from very far away, but that doesn't mean it's really bad. The villain's speech on why he does everything was fine. So, for me, that movie was just fine. It was entertaining for sure. It wasn't the worst thing I've seen, but it wasn't the best either. Um, what would be your grade for this movie?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I really love like these films that are like a mix of like satireness and like horror and thriller or drama element.
I'd probably give it like a 7.5 or an 8.
7.5. I would personally give a 6 out of 10 because my dislikes feel almost as much space as my likes. Um, I don't see myself rewatching this movie, and among the 6 out of 10 I gave, if we speak about movies, I think the only other one I gave 6 was Martyr, and I think this movie was a bit better than Martyr because it has a better.
Yeah,
Uh,
sadly, I have to go right.
you have to go.
Yeah, there's some neighbors at the doors.
Okay. Are you leaving, or are you? I guess you.
Leaving right now. Did we talk about everything?
Okay. So I guess we will end the stream. Um. So
I'm sorry. Was there anything else we needed to talk about?
well, what was your grade for? Oh, 7.5, right? Yeah, it was pretty much
That
good.
or an 8?
Yeah. So I guess
Yeah,
we.
sorry. Yeah, neighbors are yelling for the roof right now, so I have to
Oh,
go
that's
fucking
fine.
yell at them.
Take care, man. See you next time.
Yeah,
So
sorry about that. But yeah, see you next time. I'll send you DMs with the other.
yeah. So I guess this is the abrupt ending. I hope everyone enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe to all the YouTube stuff. We will see each other next week for pod number 29 with season 2 of Umbrella Academy. So watch that if it's not done yet.